Hey Stitches, I'm Sam Cole, and in today's video we are going to be reading all of Emily Henry's books for the first time. I have heard nothing but amazing things about Emily Henry, but I just have never taken the plunge and read them myself, so I thought it would be fun for today's video to go through and read all of them in publication order and give my thoughts. So without further ado, let's get started. First up was Beach Read, and I have my notes right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and read them. So in Beach Read, we follow January, who is a romance writer who no longer believes in happy endings, and Augustus, a literary fiction writer who knows there's no such thing. When these previous college nemesis end up unexpected next-door neighbors for the summer, they strike up a deal to cure their writer's blocks. Augustus will write a happy ending while January tackles the great American novel. They will take turns sharing the ways they research that span from a trip to the carnival to interviewing survivors of a nearby death cult. Whoever writes and sells their novel first wins bragging rights, and the only rule, don't fall in love. I loved the mix of the broody pessimist and the depressed fairy princess. I thought that was a really interesting take, and I also really loved the conversations surrounding mental health and grief and the lasting effects of that and how we interact with other people. This one was so amazing, and I definitely understand the hype now around Emily Henry. Next up, I read The People We Meet on Vacation, and I thought it was a frustratingly hilarious look into two best friends and who are obviously in love with each other, though they clearly don't know that. And again, in this, we follow Alex and Poppy, who met in college and quickly find out that they have nothing in common except for their hometown. As the old adage goes, though, opposites attract, and they become the best of friends. Sprinkled throughout the book, we get snippets of their annual summer vacations that they have taken through the past decade together, up until 2 years ago, where everything changed and they haven't spoken since. Poppy convinces Alex to take one last vacation together to clear the air and make everything go back to normal. She has 1 week to salvage their perfect friendship and clean up the mess of their last trip. This was not my favorite Emily Henry. It took me a pretty long time to really connect with the characters and really root for them. I think focusing on the beginning of their relationship where they had nothing in common, and focusing on just how these were clearly two very different people, it just like didn't really make a lot of sense for me, and it didn't make me want to root for them until like halfway through the book, where we really started to get their charm and like the depth of their relationship. And I really was just wondering like why we were supposed to be rooting for them to succeed when it was clear that like it wasn't working out, you know? Like I said though, that did change around like the halfway point. I found myself giggling, and of course Emily Henry's banter is like top tier. I did suspect like what happened on their like last fateful trip almost immediately, though I was curious as to like how we got to that point and like the repercussions of it and everything like that. So that was still interesting, but like I said, I did assume what happened pretty early. I won't say anything. Overall, I did really love Emily Henry's writing and her ability to create like believable and witty banter, but it just wasn't my favorite. So I still think so far it was Beach Read and then People We Meet on Vacation. Okay, next up we have Book Lovers, and oh my god, when I tell you this was immediately added to my favorite shelf. I mean, look at all of the notes that I have in this one. I mean, there are just not enough words to describe how beautiful this one was and how perfect it was for me. I literally wanted to reread it before I even finish, so I think that that is a great sign of a good book. I didn't want it to end, but also felt that it was perfectly paced and ended when it was supposed to. It didn't overstay its welcome. Okay, so for this one, we follow Nora Stevens, the cutthroat literary agent who has read enough books to know that she's the woman left at the end of the romance novels. The leading man takes a trip to a small town, saves the day, finds a sweetheart, and leaves the heartless girl behind. It might seem a little dramatic if it hadn't happened to her already 3 times. When her beloved little sister Libby asks her to take a month-long trip to a small town, Sunshine Falls, North Carolina, she can't say no. Libby creates a list of romance novel worthy tasks to complete before the end of their trip, like go skinny dipping, save a local business, and kiss a local man. Enter Charlie Lastra, the brooding editor that Nora has had the misfortune of working with before. Mysteriously, he just so happens to be in Sunshine Falls too. Quote, as they are thrown together again and again in a series of coincidences no editor worth their salt would allow, what they discover might just unravel the carefully crafted stories they've written about themselves. Like I said, mwah, chef's kiss, so amazing. Definitely my favorite Emily Henry so far. Just made me, I think I really loved the small town vibe and the fact that it takes place in North Carolina, where I'm from. I knew I've been to towns like Sunshine Falls. I felt the character through it, and I loved it. So yeah, definitely my favorite so far. Last but not least, we had Happy Place by Emily Henry. I had a vastly different experience with this one versus all of her other books thus far. I was expecting another like kick your feet and blush rom-com, and I was sorely mistaken. I would definitely describe this book more as a literary fiction, which since reading it I have noticed that people say that, and so I do wish I had known that going into it, as I wouldn't have been so like shell-shocked from my experience. But it was really great. The longer that it's been since I read it last week, I just love it more and more. Since I've gotten past my shock, I've kind of balanced back out. I realize just how perfect this book is. This book chewed me up and spit me out. It made me realize fears that I didn't even know that I had. I found myself wanting to like throw this book across the room or yell into its like tear-stained pages. But I feel like, again, that's a sign of a really good book. It didn't do what I expected it to do, but it had just as extreme of an emotional reaction as the other ones, as like book lovers gave me, which I feel like you can't fault it for that. I literally remember looking to my partner while I was reading this with tears in my eyes, saying, this is not a silly little rom-com. And that's not to diminish the other books or rom-coms in general. I love them and they hold such a special place in my heart, but you do go into them with certain expectations. And so going through this and feeling just heartbroken for the majority of the book is not what you expect from a silly little rom-com. So I was, like I said, thoroughly shocked, but I really just loved it nonetheless. For this one, we follow Harriet and Wynne, the perfect couple and their group of friends on their annual trip to a cottage in Maine. It's a week of relaxation and fun surrounded by the people that know them best. Except this year, Harriet and Wynne are lying through their teeth to all their friends because they've been broken up for 6 months and for reasons that they won't discuss. The plan was to break the news while they were all together on this trip, but after learning that the cottage is for sale and this will be the last year they have there, they've decided to keep the secret for a little bit longer. They now find themselves sharing the big room with one bed. Quote, after years of being in love, how hard can it be to fake it for 1 week in front of those who know you best? Like I said, it was just great. I had initially put this pretty low on my ranking just because of how just like discombobulated I felt after reading it and having my expectations just like completely blown away. But I realized that wasn't fair, and I find myself thinking of Happy Place more than the rest of them, more than even book lovers. And so for that, I think this has to be my favorite Emily Henry book that she has out so far. If I wanted a rereadable little rom-com, I would definitely reach for book lovers. But if I want my heart ripped out a little bit more, I would definitely come back to Happy Place. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my feedback about and my ratings of Emily Henry books. She has definitely become an auto-buy author for me. Anything she puts out, I am going to read it almost immediately. And so I think that is really exciting. I didn't know what to expect going into this like readathon, and yeah, I think it was amazing, and I definitely found a new favorite author. So yeah, please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!